So let me introduce you all to a very dear friend of mine, Dhruv Sharma here, who is going to help me navigate through this concourse.
Well,
So welcome to the Buggy Khana.
thank you. Pleasure being here.
So what do you think so
Big
far?
fan. I mean, the level of restoration, what we are seeing here, it's at par to anywhere in the world now.
Right.
And I mean, especially some of these motorcycles,
Yeah.
you see the way they're restored.
Yeah.
And the quality,
Look at that.
I mean, impeccable.
Stunning.
And some of them are very, very rare. Especially that one. That's
Mr. Batena.
Mr. Vatera's Honda.
It's not just rare, but the story.
Story behind it.
I mean, he's been racing it for so many years.
And we just heard it start some time back.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Again, superb restoration.
Yeah. No, they're all stunning actually. All of them. Even that Indian.
That's Diljit's Indian. Very nicely restored.
Even this one is very nice.
And a Vincent. It's not something you see every day.
Yeah. So good. So where should we go from here?
I think we should head down towards perhaps the Bentley.
Come on, let's go. So lovely weather as well, you know.
Great weather, great, and especially the grounds.
Yeah.
I mean, and the view of the lake and everything. I couldn't ask for a better location to have this event.
Yeah. And everything works so well, you know. It's almost like it's tailor-made for this event.
Absolutely. And the turnout of the kind of cars we have here today. I mean, 10 years ago, you couldn't imagine something like this happening. I mean,
It's also because of the quality, right? I mean, they could have the cars maybe, but not this level of quality.
yes, exactly. And plus also, people have now taken it up in such a greater, passionate way.
Yeah.
Where they actually now, it's not no more of that, you send it to a painter and get it.
Yeah.
Or people want to go with a book, exactly like you're doing your roles right now. It's exactly, and it's taking time because buy the book.
It's taking time, it's by the book, it's finding the right people to do it.
Exactly.
It's finding the right paint shade. It's doing the research on, what the interior had, whether it had leather, whether it was fabric. It's really taking it down to the minutest level. And that's because the people are also so knowledgeable that if you don't do it right, it sort of sticks out.
It does. We've had that. We've gone through that in certain places before. In fact, you and I have discussed a certain car about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to meet up with Christopher, who's the number one go-to person for all mechanical work in India. Morning, Christopher.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Good.
Pleasure to see you again.
Welcome to the Buggy Khana.
How are we?
Thank you. Good, thank you.
So what have you got to the...
So we got this is a project that I did some years ago.
Right.
So I was telling you this is a 1935 3.5 liter Bentley. It's a Derby Bentley, which means that it was produced in UK.
Right.
But these are very nice cars actually, and this particular car is everybody knows it in India. It's a famous car. JK3 the number plate.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a Maharaja car. It is a Maharaja car. So it came to us for mechanical restoration. I specialize mainly in mechanical restoration. I don't really do cosmetics, but this was actually one of our ground up restorations, in the sense that we stripped the entire thing right down to its bare bones, right down to chassis, and then we rebuilt the car all over again. Okay. The problem was that it came to us in bits and pieces. I mean, most of the parts were there, but we had to get some of the stuff. But it had been played around with a couple of local guys.
Right.
They weren't able to get it right. And so the only way to do it right was to strip the entire thing.
To start fresh.
Start afresh, yeah.
Over again.
I mean, then you know what's gone into it, and then we have a record. So the way we work is we take photographs of every single stage, right from the beginning all the way to the end.
Right.
So there's no ambiguity as to what's done, what's not done. And you have a record for the next 20, 30 years,
Right. So there's a process that you follow as well. Obviously, first is disassembling the whole thing.
Yes.
Putting it all out, and then you sift through the parts which are good, which are bad. You
Absolutely.
refurbish some and then you have to import some. How do you go through that?
Absolutely. So it works on the basis of the customer, really.
Right.
It depends on what he's looking for. Is he looking for a concours type of car, or is he looking for something that he wants to use as a daily driver? And then we decide what path we're going to take. We also look at the condition of the parts, and I'm of the nature, if we can save the parts, let's do it.
Right.
If we really need to change it, then we look into it. But we also look at longevity of the part. If it's not going to last more than 10 years, it's not worth it.
Right.
Especially key components.
Correct. So just going back to something that you mentioned that you discussed with the client.
Yes.
With regard to what is the final product going to look like.
Yes,
You want
yes,
a regular restoration, or do you want a concours type of
Yes,
restoration?
yes.
So there is a difference
There is.
between this. So that would also entail a difference in budget
Of course.
and timelines also.
Yes. So to some extent, all those things do change. For example, the detailing on a concours car would be a lot more than a detailing on a regular.
Right. To what extent? What would be the difference?
So timelines will definitely change. I mean, the amount of work that has to go, and it'll take us maybe 3 to 4 months more to detail the car completely. Because don't forget, it's not just what you see; it's what's underneath as well.
Correct.
And since we're documenting the entire process, every single component will be detailed as original. Compared to otherwise, we won't spend that much time on the parts that are not. I mean, mechanically they'll all be 100%. We don't compromise on mechanicals at all.
Yeah.
Especially things like brakes and stuff. Which is a safety hazard.
So the look.
It's just a look. It's the look of the part. It's the original factory finish, the paint,
Right.
those kind of things.
So
Otherwise,
irrespective, you don't compromise on the mechanical.
No,
work,
no,
etc.
not
matter
at
what it is. That's still
not at all. Not at all.
done the right way.
Because irrespective of whether it's a concours car or it's a driven car, at the end of the day, these cars are meant to be driven, and my clients do drive their cars.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, it's a safety thing at the end of the day. And also, you don't want to keep having to fix the car all the time, niggles and this and that.
Correct.
So mechanically, we try to sort out whatever it is. And then from there on, we only maintain the car over the next years, We do a service every year or whatever. Just
So they
basic
send the
maintenance.
car back to you, or how does that work?
Sometimes it depends on where the customer lives in India. India is quite big, and so sometimes it's a bit difficult to
You
send. the
might
car.
have to go to them.
Yeah, so if it's a small service or it's a minor service or regular service, a yearly service, that kind of thing, we go to the customer's place and we take our tools there.
Right.
But if it's a major service where we require to open up, certain things, then the car comes to me because I have the tools and everything at my workshop,
Got it.
which is a little difficult logistically to take to the customer's house.
So now coming back to this car.
Yeah.
When was this restoration actually done?
This took me about a year to complete.
Right.
Only reason is because we were waiting for parts from abroad, and he wanted to get it as original as possible.
Right.
And I think we've achieved that. I'm quite happy with the outcome of it.
Right.
Well, 99% is original parts, and there's only a few things that we were able to substitute here in India, that we manufactured here in India, or wiring, for example. All of the wiring has come from out except for the high tension cables, which are Indian high tension cables, but they are exactly the same as out. There's no difference in quality. It's just that we procure them from here,
Right.
or that kind of thing, just to save a little bit of cost here and there, but still keep the same outcome, the exact
Right.
outcome.
So the entire car is stunning. But
Okay.
obviously you worked on the mechanical, the chassis, all of
Yes,
that.
yes.
So how was that process? The car came, you stripped it.
So the car came to us fairly complete. When I say fairly complete, I mean that there was some engine bits and pieces that we got in bags,
Yeah.
but the rest of the car was fairly complete. And then what we did is we did a catalog of what is there and what is not there to the best of our knowledge. And then we stripped the entire car down to its bare metal, right down to chassis.
Right.
Every single nut and bolt, there was nothing left out. And then we cataloged what was there, what was not there, what we required, because then we know once we open the car up, then we have an idea of exactly what is there and what is not there. And all the missing parts, we decide what we can make in India to the exact specifications of Bentley and what we require to get from out. For example, the ignition coils were missing on the car, and it had an Indian ignition coil. But these are bakelite coils that nobody makes in India, and this is a very difficult thing to make.
Yeah.
And so these are things we procured from Bentley, Rolls-Royce and Bentley, from abroad. All original stuff that will make the car absolutely original. Whereas there are some metal components, brake components that we could manufacture here to original specs, which we have done over here. And so it's not wrong in the sense because it's absolutely original, to the sense that it's made absolutely original. It's not from Bentley, because you don't get them anymore, unfortunately.
Got it.
And so that's what we do. We try to repair or remanufacture whatever we can in India to save a lot of costs on transportation, customs, that kind of thing.
Got it.
But it does not spoil the originality of the car because it's made to exact specs.
So the judges in a competition like this, how would
Yeah.
the judges view some of those things? They would accept that as
Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with. For example, I just give you a simple idea. The bushings that you manufacture, all bushings have to be remanufactured anyway. So what we do is we do a metallurgy test, and we get the same metals that are used in the old bushings to be put in the new bushing, and then we return it on a lathe.
Right.
And so that is absolutely acceptable because everything is the original standards.
Got it.
There's no deviation from it as such.
Right. Now, once you finish your part of the mechanical work,
Yes.
let's say even on this car, then what happens? You send this to somebody else to finish the
Yes,
cosmetic?
So usually what we do is we get the car road tested,
Right.
and so we assemble the entire thing,
Hmm.
and we get it road tested with, for example, if the fenders are not painted or if the bonnet is not painted, all that happens later.
Right.
But we put the entire car together so that we get a whole feel of the car, and we know that the car is going to run well. Or if that's not possible, and for example, some people send us chassis, which is just the engine,
Right.
we'll do a road test with the chassis and the engine just to make sure that 90% of the mechanicals are correct. Once the body comes back on the car, I usually visit their workshop
The final check.
for the final check. So once everything is done, then we take a test, and whatever has to be ironed out, the small problems with, regards to that, we take care of. But from start to finish, whatever is mechanical in nature or electrical in nature, which is engine, brake, suspension, steering, wiring, meters, anything like that, we take care of all of that. The cooling system, all of that.
Got
It's only the cosmetics that we don't do. It's just because I prefer to specialize in something that I have knowledge on.
And again, you would also, as you said, most of your clients do use their cars frequently.
Well, if they didn't, I wouldn't have a job really, because I only do mechanicals.
Right.
It's. There are a lot of people who do cosmetic work,
Yeah.
and if it was just a showpiece, then that's all they would do. They wouldn't really do much other than that.
Good.
But yes, a lot of my clients do drive, and now they've started driving long distance. In fact, there's another car here in the show, a Daimler DB18, and he's driving 1,000 or 1,200 kilometers from here around Rajasthan
Okay.
in his car.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's amazing.
they all drive. All of them drive.
Right.
And I try to get them to drive it as often as possible.
Yeah. And the timelines, broad timelines to do something like this?
About a year. 8 months to a year. It really depends on parts.
Right.
If we're stuck with parts, then it extends. But otherwise, working time is about 8 months to a year
Got it.
for a full ground up restoration, nut and bone.
Got it. Great. Thank you very much,
It's a
Christopher.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
All the best.
This is a quite an interesting section. It's called Motoring for the Masses in India. So that's one section. And on the left, we have the Cadillac. Yeah. So let's have a look at a couple of these and then have a look at the Cadillacs.
But all these are so interesting because everything here somehow attached to the motoring history of India.
Correct.
Starting from this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the first Maruti Suzuki,
Correct.
and this is 83. I mean, this actually started changing the motoring game completely.
Yeah. I remember, and I mean, that's such a familiar number plate as well, DIA. I see so many of those. And I remember because I think in Bombay, my father was one of the first to get an allocation to these as well.
Wow. Yeah, I remember those were days of the allocation.
Yeah. But they were great fun to drive.
They are.
And I think along with this, the van also
van
came,
came.
which was also quite commonly used.
So we had one of those.
Yeah.
With a high roof. And that also had a DIA plate.
So let's come to the caddies. I mean, look at this.
I mean, this
Look at the
is-
color on this.
Color is stunning.
Isn't it? It's like, it's just grabs all the attention.
And not only that, I mean, if you see all these cars, especially look at the bumpers with these
Yeah.
rocket-like positions there and all the chrome.
Correct.
I mean, it just stands out in a very different way.
You know, I was speaking to, I think, one of the judges who that judged this category.
Mm-hmm.
And they said it was so difficult because all of these cars were immaculate. And as you can see them, they really are. I mean, you can't fault any of them. They're absolutely stunning. So this is a one close to the heart because this belongs to my uncle. So I've seen this car growing up in Delhi.
Driving it a lot.
Yeah. And he used to have quite a large collection right the way up to, I think, sometime in the 2000s, when then he sort of downsized.
Yeah.
But he used to love his American cars. He still does.
He still does. He has some very nice cars.
Yeah.
I used to see them at the Statesman rally as a kid.
This is another great car. I think this belongs to Anirudh.
Also a great backstory.
This one's from Bombay. But is this a Gwalior car?
Gwalior car.
Right.
That's what I mean. I believe this is the one.
But it's never sort of presented as one, strangely.
But again, he from what I know, Anil drives it a lot.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
He's done a lot of cross-country traveling in this.
Yeah, yeah.
This again has a lot of history. This is the next Bikaner car.
I love the shape of this one. This is, I think, the classic 56.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
I mean, those days to have like power windows and all that.
Right.
The hydraulic top that works with a button.
Yeah. So this is another great car, belongs to Mr. Titus. But I've seen the development of this car.
Of course.
Because it's been restored by Mr. Goenka and Alan. You know, to see it finally all again together.
The level of restoration, you know, what we were talking about earlier, it's
outstanding. And that's what we've been discussing, that, you know, the quality now has reached pretty much a global standard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, from what I heard last night over dinner, there are 2 or 3 cars here which are going to Pebble Beach this year.
Yeah. I mean, you can't fault them. Look at it. I think
again, a very different color scheme. Huh?
Yeah.
Not something you see every day.
Yeah. Very unusual. But apparently it is a
Cadillac.
It is a Cadillac color. Yeah.
But not something we've seen around here.
Right.
Generally, they've always been on darker shades.
Correct. So this is another Bombay car. Another stunning car.
Again, Mr. Goenka's.
Yeah. Beautiful. So as a judge, how would you pick?
Oh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Hard to choose.
Hard to choose. Very hard. And most cars here are very hard to choose. You can't really say that this or that.
Right.
But the minute you look at this, then that stands out.
Yeah. Absolutely perfect.
Again, lovely shade.
Yeah.
Class is great class. This is an Italian class. So 4 Lancias.
Right.
To see 4 Lancias together is again in India is a rarity.
Right.
And most of them, as we know, Pininfarina body and all. Like this one is a Pininfarina body. And this one, I mean, that time the entire way things. I mean, if you look at the lights, look at the Lancia badge.
Yeah.
The lights and the match. Great cars, very popular with the Maharaja Patiala. I've heard the story from my grand uncle that the reason he used to prefer Lambdas because they were front wheel drive, they would climb very fast to Chel Palace.
That makes sense, yeah.
And but again, we go back to restoration. I mean, look at the quality; it's
Stunning.
absolutely stunning.
Really, all are immaculate. But the lights are quite interesting and nice.
There's another light I'll show you. Go around, which is very peculiar.
Right.
Then we have the Mysore car. This is the Mysore class. These cars, both these cars, the Bentley and the Rolls, they've competed abroad and won their class.
Right. Yeah, both of them are quite well known actually.
Very well
on the circuit.
And again, if I'm not wrong, restored at Mr. Goenka's facility.
Yeah, Mr. Goenka's, and I think owned also by Johan Poonawalla.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's taken them abroad as well, I think, right?
Yeah, he has.
I don't know. He took something to
England,
Como, to Villa d'Este.
Yeah, and realized.
Yeah. Just the quality of the work is just...
I mean, the way the chrome stands out, the way the paint. I mean, even the stance of the car.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Probably looks better than what it did new then.
Perhaps. And then we have a very interesting car here. Belongs to a friend. This car, this Ford, has been in the same family. His grandmother used to drive this car as a young girl.
Okay.
His mother drove this car and he's driven this car. And this car is actually a very well-travelled car. In the sense it's been everywhere. from down south. It's been in Delhi for the longest because he spends time between Delhi and Pune. And it's a regular driver. And again, headlights, teardrop.
That's true, actually. All of these cars have very interesting headlights. So where is this kept now?
It's in Pune now.
Okay.
But again, and not a fresh restoration, if I may tell you. He just keeps it very well. I remember this car being restored something like close to 10 years ago.
I mean, I give that a lot more value.
Absolutely.
Personally, that's my personal opinion.
And especially for something that's driven.
Yeah. I mean,
On a regular basis.
that's why I say, for me, I mean, I would give more marks for something which is really driven a lot, and the owner is getting the satisfaction and enjoyment out of that, and the car is getting to do what she was built for.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what it's all about.
And these cars in that time were built more robust.
Yeah.
And they were used.
So while I like them to look beautiful and like this, but I also like that the patina effect.
That's true.
You know, which tells a story.
Exactly. I mean, something like, you know it very well because you drive all your cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now look at this.
What is this?
This is a Cord, but don't miss the headlights.
Yeah. Wow. Looks like something from some evil regime. Something very sinister about it.
Yes, absolutely. And the way it sits, it's so low.
Yeah.
It's low slung. And imagine a design like this in 1930.
Yeah. Wow. Again, like you said, low slung, the stance is down there. You know, everything is it's cowling down. The headlights, it's like, it looks mean, as if it's going to come and bite you.
And somehow the color combination kind of gives it that devilish charm,
Yeah.
black and red
Absolutely.
with these lights.
Yeah. Very unusual.
Very unusual. And the only one in the country.
Wow. So this is 1930.
30.
Belongs to a very dear friend and an avid car collector, car lover, Gautam Singhania.
Yeah. Has a very fine collection now.
Yeah. He seems to have good taste in picking these rare gems.
But even, I mean, how beautifully it's restored. It's like,
Yeah. Stunning. Great. Should we move on?
yeah, sure.
You must enjoy the car.
And my children always say that I'm the happiest when I'm sitting and driving her.